Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the post-lunch sessions, the two sessions that are lined up back-to-back. The combination of artificial intelligence, audio-visual AI, and the animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics, known as AVGC, serves as the primary technical roadmap to achieve the 50% gross enrollment ratio target by 2035 set by NEP 2020. With the convergence of these three, the ODL transforms itself from a passive model to an active, highly personalized, and experiential learning ecosystem. Keeping this in mind, the Session 3, the theme of Session 3 is AI, AVGC, and the future of ODL, realizing the vision of NEP 2020. We have two lectures in this session. Mr. Manjul Shroff, Director and Chief Operating Officer, Graffiti Multimedia Private Limited, will speak on unleashing the power of AVGC XR for immersive, experiential, and creative learning. The second speaker is Dr. Neeti Verma, Strategy Lead for Google for Education, who will speak on secure, responsible, scalable AI for education. The session will be moderated by Professor Gaurav Singh from the School of Education, IGNOU. I now invite the speakers and the moderator to please come up on the dais. I invite the moderator for the session, Professor Gaurav, to give a brief background and an introduction of the speakers.
Thank you, Madam Monica. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again after a nice, delicious lunch. I think a session after lunch is always challenging to moderate and manage, but I took up this challenge with best of my abilities. So, in this session, as we all know that today on 29th July and on 29th July 2020, the National Education Policy was launched 6 years back. A policy which transformed the education in past 6 years in many ways. It reimagined it, it pushed us towards new dimensions like multidisciplinary learning, flexibility and all. And when we are talking about a new age education, without talking about AVGC and AI, I think the new age education is not complete. So taking the cue from that, today's session be titled as AVGC and AI, the future of open and distance learning. And on this, we have two great experts with us. So first I will invite to Manjul ji, then Neeti ji for their presentation, and then if the time will allow, we will have some discussion and question answers also. So before we begin, let me present the context for today's conversation. National Education Policy treats open educational and open and distance education as a mainstream, not as a marginal mode. As it says that ODL opens the pathways for quality education for all. And when we are talking about the new age technologies, there are two things on which a lot of focus is in the NEP as well as after NEP also. We all are talking about AI, its applications, and we are also talking about AVGC. In this year's budget, 2026-27, Honorable Finance Minister of India announced a national AVGC XR framework. And we have the person who is working on this framework since its inception, Mr. Wanjari, so he is the best person to talk about it. As per her estimate in his budget speech, he said that India need around 2 million AVGC professionals. And as per the industry data, which I just checked in last 2-3 days, at present the number lies around somewhere around 2.6 lakhs, that too restricted into 10 to 12 cities mostly. But the way AVGC is going to take its space, not only in education but also in the job market, I think to train 2 million professionals is not possible for any face-to-face mechanism. The only solution lies with open and distance learning. We have the experience, we have the expertise, we have the network, and we are open to take up these challenges. So how this AVGC will shape the future of education industry, and how the 2 million jobs which are there in the market by 2030 will be taken by the professionals which we will develop. I think that is the point where we should focus and we should discuss more. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's first speaker, Mr. Munjal Shroff. He has spent his career in the forefront of Indian animation, visual effect and gaming industry. Munjal is a creator and producer and director for the last 30 years. In the various spectrums, he has worked on animation, gaming, immersive technologies, and entertainment. He has partnership with the biggest name of the industry like Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and he helped India to put its foot on a very prominent place in the whole global map of the content creation. His shows like Netflix show Deepa and Anoop in 2023 was best new show. He was awarded for best inclusivity, best music, best voice talent. His latest creation, Krish, Trish and Balti Boy, is also a very new creation of 52 series. So apart from this work, his role is also as the chairman of FICCI AVGC XR Forum, where he is helping to craft the national AVGC XR policy. We all know that in 2022, a draft policy was circulated and states were asked to draft their own policy, and a few states have already launched their AVGC policy. So I think none other than him is a suitable person to talk about AVGC XR and its future in India and the partnership and possibilities for open and distance learning. So with these words, please join me to welcome Professor Munjal Shroff, who will help us to explore that how AVGC will become a genuine engine of opportunity through open and distance learning. I would request, please give a round of applause and invite him, please. Munjal.
First and foremost, thank you, VC ma'am, for inviting me. I think sitting here in the hall today, I've had a different kind of education myself. It's interesting to come from industry and then dive into the world of academicians. So one small correction, sir, I'm by no stretch of imagination a professor. So yeah, I actually want to talk to you guys today from a perspective of real world case study. And I thought one of my recent shows, Bharat Hai Hum, is a very unique experiment that we've done. And I thought I'll walk you through that and see how we have used animation, gaming, comics, and all these tools, and how we've sort of adapted them to learning from a real world in the trenches and also partnering with some of the biggest names in the industry. Since we are after lunch, I thought it might be a good idea to have some entertainment. So I would request the console to play the Bharat Hai Hum clip, maybe for 4-5 minutes. I'll request you to stop, and then we can continue with the presentation. Can we have the video, please, of Bharat Hai Hum?
सबके मन में जगाने लेकर आए हैं क्रिश और भारती बॉय। भारत है
सुप्रभात दोस्तों। सुप्रभात संस्कृति। अरे तुम्हारे जगाने पर भी ये लोग जागे नहीं। लगता है इन्हें स्टोरी नहीं सुननी।
स्टोरी?
स्टोरी?
ट्रिश, सुनाओ ना स्टोरी।
स्टोरी से पहले ये बताओ कि भारत की सबसे पहली रानी कौन थी जिन्होंने फिरंगियों के खिलाफ डटकर मुकाबला किया था?
मैं बताऊं? रानी लक्ष्मीबाई। इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? ये तो बच्चा बच्चा जानता है।
बिल्कुल गलत जवाब। डियर संस्कृति, इन सबको दिमाग तेज करने के लिए क्या खाना चाहिए? हर रोज एक मुट्ठी बादाम।
बादाम तो ठीक है, पर सही जवाब तो बताओ।
रानी अब्बक्का देवी उर्फ अभया रानी, चौटा डायनेस्टी की क्वीन। अपने देश की हिस्ट्री सिर्फ एग्जाम्स में पास होने के लिए नहीं, उससे कुछ सीखने के लिए, इंस्पायर होने के लिए सुननी जरूरी है। डियर संस्कृति, स्टोरी मोड ऑन। सेंचुरी में इंडियन वेस्टर्न कोस्टलाइन पर कर्नाटका के तुलुनाडु रीजन में चौटा डायनेस्टी की एक छोटी सी रियासत थी, उलाल, जिसकी रानी थी अबक्का देवी। 16th सेंचुरी में इंडिया के ट्रेड रिलेशंस ऑटोमन एम्पायर के साथ बहुत अच्छे थे। इंडियन स्पाइसेस, गोल्ड, पर्ल्स, कॉटन जैसी चीजों के अच्छे दाम ऑटोमन मार्केट्स में मिलते थे।
वल्लाह, आपकी स्पाइसेस ने तो खाने का जायका ही बढ़ा दिया है। उल्लाल की रानी अबक्का देवी को हमारा सलाम कहिएगा।
जरूर, जल्द ही हम फिर आएंगे।
रानी अबक्का देवी की खासियत ये थी कि वो अपने महल में कम अपनी प्रजा के बीच में रहना ज्यादा पसंद करती थी।
देवी, इस बार इलायची और काली मिर्च की फसल बहुत बढ़िया हुई है।
वाह, आपको इस बार और भी अच्छे दाम मिलेंगे। रानी अबक्का की प्रजा रानी से बहुत खुश थी, लेकिन उनके पति महाराज लक्ष्मप्पा उनसे बहुत नाराज थे।
रानी साहिबा, ये आप गलत कर रही हैं।
महाराज, हम अपना धर्म अच्छी तरह जानते हैं, लेकिन आप ये भूल रहे हैं कि मंगलुरु बंगाली का एक हिस्सा है और आप बंगाली के राजा हैं। महाराज, आपको ये पता है कि पुर्तगाली फौजों ने मंगलुरु के किले पर अपना कब्जा कर लिया है, फिर भी आप चुप हैं?
आपका उल्लाल और हमारा बंगाली दोनों ही छोटी रियासतें हैं और पुर्तगाली फौजें हमसे ज्यादा ताकतवर और बड़ी हैं। उनसे दोस्ती करने में ही हमारी भलाई है।
पुर्तगाली कभी हमारे दोस्त नहीं हो सकते। आप हमारे पति हैं, लेकिन उल्लाल की सुरक्षा हमारा धर्म है। इसलिए हमने फैसला किया है कि अब से पुर्तगाली फौजों को उल्लाल सालाना लगान नहीं देगा।
अगर आपका यही फैसला है तो अब हमारा फैसला भी सुन लीजिए कि हम कभी आपके राज्य उल्लाल में नहीं आएंगे और हमसे किसी भी तरह की मदद की उम्मीद मत रखिएगा। हाँ।
Yeah, I think we can stop now. Thank you so much. Can I have the presentation back on? So, the reason I wanted to show you this so that hopefully it'll add more context to what I have to talk about. So I wanted to, can you have the presentation on the screen, please? Perfect. Yeah. So the reason I wanted to take you through this is sort of that it has some context to what I want to talk about. Okay. I think when we talk about history, at least school mein, I used to always sleep through my classes because I always found that our way of telling history or teaching history perhaps was definitely not as exciting as what you just saw. And I think back when I was in school, multimedia as a concept didn't exist, but today it exists. Today we have AVGC XR, So I think the whole idea is how do we, use this technology in a much more interesting and engaging manner, and not just predominantly as a form of entertainment, but also education, And I think, for every story, right? Every story begins in a place with a conflict, with a hero. What does he do about it, and how does he sort of go about doing what he does, right? And then you sort of put the learner in that context and you ask him the question that if you were in his or her place, what would you have done? So, I think, at least in India, hamare desh mein, the problem is not about content. We have far too much content. I think our challenge is the way we present content. And I think that's where the challenge lies, at how do you present the content in an engaging manner. And I think, I think somewhere when we started adopting the Western form of education, the way when we started consuming learning history was very data driven. 1947 में इंडिया आज़ाद हुआ, 1961 में गोवा आज़ाद हुआ, 1942 Quit India movement. These are dates. I think we never study the emotions, we never study the people, we never study what was their motivation. And I'm so glad that Indian knowledge system is being spoken about, and I think we are going back to our roots. Because I think in India, we never studied history like that. History was narrated, history was told, history was sung, history was folk tales, history was folk stories, history was patachitra. This is our culture, these are our stories. And I think we were far more media rich, couple of thousand years ago, much before the Western world started discovering all these things. So for me, it was about how do you make that connection? Because if you look at today's audience, right? I'm sure all of you who have kids, there are a lot of students here, right? You live in Reels, right? How many of you watch Insta Reels? Okay, at least there are a few honest hand. बाकी लोग phone नहीं इस्तेमाल करते लगता है. हाँ, okay, that's better. चलिए. So I think the reason why we consume Reels is because we like video, we like motion, we like, because in those reels, someone is narrating a story instant with emotion, sometimes it will be overactive imagination and emotions as well. So, and I think the way we are consuming that story, right, is in our audiovisual medium. And I think that's the choice that we need to have, is that how do you present information in that manner? I think NEP is already spoken about. I think enough has been spoken about NEP today, saying. But I think the whole idea is one of the most, I would say, ignored part of our education was creativity, which NEP addresses now. We often talk about immersive, but I think we've not really understood the meaning of immersive, right? We talk about experiential. What does that really mean? We talk about multimodal. We talk about multilingual. Right? So what we have tried to do is to essentially use some of these things in a manner that we can sort of rethink, and I think that's what I'm proposing today, that how do we rethink this whole thing? I think the challenge is, again, any new term, when we look at it from a strictly academic perspective, we start looking at it as a subject. And I think that's the, I would say, fundamental flaw, because AVGC XR is not a subject. It's a language for learning, right? And I think this is the shift in thinking that is needed, right? Moment you start looking at something, कि ये subject हमको पढ़ाना है, तो I think there's a problem. But if you start looking at it as a tool, right? Animation is a tool, gaming is a tool, comics are a great tool in my opinion. I think they are, in my opinion, that's the best way to teach history. Give kids comics. They'll happily read it, they'll happily consume it. So, so when we embarked on this challenge of saying, I want to basically look at stories of the unsung heroes of Indian freedom struggle, right? often, the history that we learn today, that we all grew up, and like the very first episode that I showed you on Bharat Hai Hum, pehli Rani kaun thi? To Rani Lakshmibai thi. But there are, at least within the context of my own show, there are 3 queens. Rani Abbaka was among the first. In 1550, she fought the Portuguese. Then we had Rani Chennamma, and then we had Rani Velu Nachiyar, right? So these are 3 queens who fought colonial power. Again, they used to trade with them. Most of these women could speak a lot of these languages. They could, because they were trading with French, they were trading with Portuguese, they were trading with Dutch, so they could read, write, and speak these languages. Now imagine this happening like 300, 400 years ago, right? I mean, that's how literate we were, and sadly, so many years of colonialism said, oh, we are not a literate country. So I think somewhere along the way, I felt that the challenge today is that when we look at our own history, our challenge is that the way it's being presented is being presented from a very Western perspective, right? So I think there's a need to sort of look at it in a very different manner. And I think one of the first things is you need to look at, before you produce any content, you have to first do your research, right? So look at the historical integrity of the subject, right? Do you know enough to tell the story right? Right? Once you do your research, once you have information, you worry about the format later, whether you want to make an animation out of it, whether you want to make a feature film out of it, whether you want to make a game out of it. I think that comes secondary. So the methodology that we followed is, do the research, look at the information, verify it. Again, as academicians, you understand, citations as we call it, but even we follow the same methodology, and then dramatize it. Dramatization can be any form that you choose. In the AVG XR, yes, there are forms that we can use, but it can also be a play, because that's also a form of dramatization. So we came up with a very interesting format that we have sutradhars. Again, it's a very, very ancient concept. People who may not, but if you look at the IKS, they will tell you that what are sutradhars? They are narrators, right? They take the story forward. They take you into that world, right? And it can be every time it can be a different world, a different story. Just like Bharat Hai Hum mein, we have done 52 stories, which is, I think we've covered more than 50 different freedom fighters from across the length and breadth of India. 30% of these stories are women-centric. So we have these very, very popular characters called Krishtish and Baltiboy. I think a lot of you might have seen it. I don't know how many of you, can we see a few hands? Okay, all right. So people have seen this. So yeah, a lot of you who are today here, probably आपके बचपन में आप सब ने देखा होगा Cartoon Network पे बहुत चलता था. We still get a lot of emails. We still get a lot of messages on our social saying, please bring KDB back. So I think KDB is back very much in a very, very interesting format. So idea was that we take these popular presenters, leverage their brand equity, present history as a 2D animated medium, and then look at resolve and look at contextualizing that history in present today. So this was a format that we looked at. Now this in many ways, ties up with what NEP has been asking us to do. And our approach to this is that it is an entertaining educational architecture, right? We are entertaining the students while we are teaching them about history. And believe me, when history is shown the way I've just shared with you, it will be engaging, people will remember. And again, I think, when we came up with this idea, obviously, I think we were very fortunate that the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting chose to support us, and we produced this show in partnership with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. But again, I think the sheer scale of this project, because we wanted to do minimum 52 episodes, we wanted to do it in as many languages as possible. So we did it in 19 languages, 12 Indian languages, 7 international languages. And I think this series has an amazing record. It is one of the largest multi-platform distribution and release of a show in the country. It is also India's largest multilingual release. So we had Netflix, we had Amazon, we had 30 channels of Doordarshan. The show is on Spotify. The show is on 200 radio stations across the country. I don't think any animation show has ever been released at this scale. We also have a global first. We are the first show in the world to launch simultaneously in 190 countries on Netflix and Amazon. So this is truly the power of the medium and how you tell a story. And again, I think the whole idea of, telling this and why this distribution model, I'll come to that. And yeah, I think it's great when, the Prime Minister of your country tells you that you're doing well. I think ab acha kaam kar rahe ho. I think it's a must-watch show. I don't think that the PM has ever gone ahead and, on a public forum endorsed a show. So for my team, this is a massive recognition, and it's a huge encouragement for us that yes, somewhere we are on the right track. So the whole idea behind this multilingual, multi-platform design is pedagogy, right? Because we want learners to consume the content in their own language. So you make it accessible in their own language, right? You make it accessible, across different formats, right? And again, we also wanted to make sure that the content reaches out not only within India, but also globally. Bharate Hum not only made it to the most watched shows on Netflix within India, but it also reached the most watched shows across the Netflix universe, across the entire world. It was among the top 500 most watched shows worldwide, right? So this also tells you that if you tell stories right, if you tell an engaging format and a medium, then you will have an audience which will lap it up. Now, what this does is that the way we have designed the content, is that we are leveraging the same content, in animation, in comics, as podcast, as a game, and as XR. And this is exactly the point that I want to make here today, that when we as educators, when you come up with content, think multimodal, right? I think content today is not just consumed in one medium. Very often we typically look at it in one particular format, that, okay, if it's a lesson, it'll be as only text. But I'm saying, why can't it not be animated? Why can't it not become a podcast? Why can't it not become a game? And again, I think we need to look at what are these mediums. So, I mean, animation you've already seen. We've again taken the same base of animation, converted that into comics. So we've basically come up with our own pipeline. So we have a content publishing pipeline which takes the same video animated episode, publishes it as a comic. Now, today with tools and with AI, obviously, you can do that. The other, obviously, podcasts. So we not only, again, podcast was the easy part, but we also spoke to Prasar Bharati, and we also got into that, okay, can we potentially look at a scenario where this should also be on radio, right? Because whether you like it or not, the hard fact today, which probably a lot of people don't know, that people still listen to radio a lot. Probably us living in big cities wouldn't realize, but aaj bhi radio is very actively consumed in our country. So we decided to also put it on radio. Again, games. I think this whole notion of games, when we talk about, I think, we think of GTA, or we think of FPS, first-person shooting games. But there is so much more to gaming than just these two, right? 20 years back, I was asked to design an e-learning platform, a textbook on medical terms. And we thought of gamifying it then. Obviously, none of the technology existed, so we decided to create crossword puzzles out of medical terms, right? We decided to convert medical terms into Hangman. How many of you have played Hangman? Okay, right. I think we are a different vintage. Yes, we can see that. So yeah, I think the whole idea the point I'm trying to make is that games can be in very different forms, right? Yeah, the most visible, the most adrenaline form is obviously GTA or an FPS or a Fortnite, but there's a lot more to gaming, right? So this is again, strategy, right? If you look at the Indian history of freedom struggle, it has always been about strategy. How eventually, we didn't have an army, we didn't go to battle like a world war, but we still won. There was somewhere a strategy which was at play. So again, can you strategize like a Bhagat Singh? Can you strategize like a Kunwar Jagdish Singh? How do you play the guerrilla warfare game, right? I think these are ways and means of engaging students today. Again, same thing with XR, now that we are able to create these worlds, can we immerse people into these worlds, right? So can we take the student into that world? And I think these are today, once you've done your research, right, once you build the digital assets, to convert them from one medium to another is actually fairly easy to do. So I think the idea is that for an education, for an episode, it becomes an educational unit, right? So what we do is we enter into that space, we question. So even if for any of you who have watched Bharatam, you see that the characters will ask questions among themselves, right? And they will often question that, ye kyun kiya isne? I think he will get caught. Why is he doing this? I think he should take the safe bet out. So you question, amongst themselves the question, you want children to discuss, one of the best forms of learning is also debate, right? Have two opposing people point of view and say, let's have a debate on this. And then, again, how do you then retell the narrative, right? Can you reimagine it? Can you put it in a different context? So again, in a classroom context, show an episode of Bharatam or show any video episode. हम comprehension सिखाते school में, right? We give our students a passage and say, इसमें से comprehension बताओ. I'm saying, rather than giving a text passage, why can't a video be shown and then ask the kids to express themselves in their own words, right? Show them a piece of video and ask them to write a précis in their own language, right? These are ways and means where we have to start engaging, because I think one of the biggest challenges that I find with students today is they are brilliant, they're very knowledgeable, but when it comes to expressing themselves, standing up on a stage like this and talking is where we start faltering, right? So I think we have to equip students to do that, and I think this is where technology comes in, So idea is that the way, even within my own studio, we first discuss a story. Internally, every writer pitches a story. And we come up with an idea that, okay, is this story worthy of telling, right? Do you have enough research data to back it up, right? And then we move forward with that. So the idea here is, just like, Bharatam, like I said, that the reach is today, it is being watched by millions, but that's not proof enough, right? The real proof of learning is comprehension. Have the students or have people understood it, right? What is the engagement level, right? What sort of literacy are we pushing forward? And eventually, is there any creative competence, or for that matter, any kind of competence that we are building? If we are doing that, then I think we are achieving some success. So we ran a very interesting sort of a study. So what happened is the Ministry of Education reached out to us saying, Pariksha Pe Charcha ka ek event ho raha hai all over the country, and they were very keen to show Bharatam. I said, fantastic. So I think across, 20,000-30,000 districts across India, across many Kendriya Vidyalaya schools, they were showing these episodes. Out of that, in 567 Kendriya Vidyalayas, we showed 5 episodes of Bharatam. And then we did a 30-minute pop quiz. Right? The kids didn't know that they were doing it. Okay? 56,000 kids participated in that quiz. And overwhelmingly, almost 70% of them, got a lot of the questions right. No exam, no pre-learning, nothing. आधे घंटे का content दिखाया उनको. They didn't know what was expected. And they all voluntarily took this quiz. And overwhelmingly, they got almost 60-70% of the questions right. Right? And I think we wanted to do this pilot to see and test our model, right? That, for us, just being theoretical was not enough. Just that assumption that yes, you show some content, kids will absorb. Here was a real world example, So I think the idea is that, how can we take this, and again, what I'm proposing here is that going by our experience, we would definitely love to partner with institutions like IGNOU and see that can content like this become an academic engine, right? Can we have a national network? Can we have a framework where we can build content in this manner? Right? Today, we have a lot of such stories that we are interested in saying we want to talk about different things. We want to talk about Indus Valley civilization. We want to talk about tribal heroes. We want to talk about post-independence heroes of India, right? I think my motivation behind this, and if you watch Bharatam, is that every episode ends with an idea that Garv se kaho Bharat hai hum, right? That's the philosophy, that's the driving force for us, that we want to put out content so that every kid, every youth in this country genuinely feels proud of our country. And I think that pride is not empty, it's not hollow, but it comes by being informed, knowing enough about our country, knowing enough about our forefathers, our previous generations, that yes, we truly are a rich nation, and rich not just in terms of money, but in terms of culture, heritage, value system and knowledge system, So that's our driving force today. And I think in various ways, like I said, that we can make this happen. I think our approach is that let every learner become a creator, right? There are stories in every district of this country. There are heroes in every nook and corner of our country. I mean, my last 6 years of research on the Indian history has really realized that I know so little about our country, right? And I think then can we turn every student, every youth into a great storyteller, So to me, this is how I interpret the NEP framework. Again, there could be many, but this is my humble attempt. So thank you so much. You've been a great audience.
So thank you, Manjul, for your whatever you have showcased. Actually, you basically presented that how the ideas which are there are in NEP can be translated into the reality, and how AVGC can transform the whole pedagogical structure of the country, especially up to K-12. And many of the students who are sitting there, they all are the budding teachers. They are the teacher training students, so they know well that what future lies and where they need to upgrade their skills also in the upcoming job market. With this, let me introduce our next speaker. After that, if time will allow, we will have some discussion also or some questions. So our next speaker brings a global technology lens to today's conversation. Ms. Niti Barma. She is associated with Google for Education as Government and Digital Transformation Strategy Lead, where she works closely with the real-world applications of the artificial intelligence. She leads the Government and Digital Transformation Strategy for Google in India, operating at intersections of AI, technology policy, and education reform. Her primary focus is scaling inclusivity, future-ready learning ecosystem within public education to deliver long-term and sustainable impact. Her domain expertise is in the areas like AI in education, EdTech policy, public education reforms, ecosystem skills. She drives the strategic engagement with central and state government bodies to align technology initiatives with national education goals. She also works for national AI capacity building by implementing foundational and advanced AI framework for upskilling educators and modernized classroom learning. She uses digital transformation strategy for scaling accessibility, technology-driven learning infrastructure across the public education sector, and contributes in policy systemic reforms by navigating technology policy to bridge digital divide and foster inclusion in future-ready education. With an enriching experience of 25 years plus in academics and publishing, her perspective will be helpful for us to understand not just where AI in education is heading, but also what it will generally take technologically and institutionally to bring that promise to the learners across India's vast and diverse geography. Please join me to invite Ms. Niti Verma on the stage, please.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. May I start with saying that Professor Prof, you will always be professor, because for me, I think you bring in a wealth of knowledge, and also because in the system that we are in, professors of service and professors of product matter a lot. So I believe you should take pride in the fact that they have considered you a professor for me too. Respected Vice Chancellor ma'am, and the esteemed faculty and dear students here, thank you very much for inviting me, and I have the privilege today to join you at IGNOU for this landmark Shiksha Sankalp celebration for 6 years of NEP-2020. As we look towards the grand vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, we are faced with a monumental challenge. How do we scale high-quality education to every corner of India? The answer lies not just in adopting technology, but in architecting a secure education-centric model. Today, we will discuss how to co-design a uniquely Bharat model of AI-first pedagogy, one that moves beyond basic digital access and guides our learners towards true personalized academic mastery. At the end of my presentation, I would request you to start thinking of engaging with AI a very different way that you are currently using it. Today, because when I came in, I thought I'd have a lot of faculty that I'd be addressing. When I sat there, I realized that I'm addressing a lot of students. So bear with me today when I talk through, but think of other ways of using AI securely, with a lot of responsibility, and also see how you can enhance the AI that we bring to you. Let us begin then. Pedagogy literally means the art and science of teaching. When we speak of an AI-first pedagogy, we are not talking about replacing the science of teaching with machines. We are talking about using technology to amplify the reach and impact of human teachers. As we celebrate 6 years of national education policy, we must realize that IGNOU is uniquely positioned to lead this transition. Open and distance learning is no longer a secondary option. You are doing that on a regular basis, on a daily basis through your phones. And it's the vanguard of educational equity. When we talk about co-designing this Bharat model, our core philosophy is simple. Technology must always serve the pedagogy. AI is a tool of empowerment, not a tool of replacement. Our approach must not begin with the mere excitement of a flashy, novel idea. Instead, it must start with a deep, ethical, structured commitment to what is secure, responsible, and fundamentally human-centered. To understand this, let's understand what IGNOU really does. You actually know it, but seeing the numbers makes you feel great about IGNOU. I am an alumni. Am I audible enough? Okay. I'm an alumni here. I studied one of my certification courses here. I did public relations from IGNOU. I did my master's in education from IGNOU. I did try to get a PhD from here. Thank you. And thanks to you. Thank you. See. Abhi theek hai? 3 million active distance learners. Let this number sink in. If IGNOU was to look at this student cohort, you are a country. It would be top of the half of nations of the world. This is a staggering figure, representing the world's largest open distance education network. At this unprecedented scale, the traditional methods of physical tracking, individual guidance face massive bottlenecks. This is exactly where technology acts as a massive force multiplier. We are dealing with millions of real lives, often students from non-traditional rural backgrounds, but who can't simply afford a casual approach. We can't do that. The technology must deploy and look at robust, inclusive, and tailored to unique demographic needs of our students. Let's look at how the commercial AI is different from an educational AI. A standard commercial recommender engine, AI, is designed to optimize for impulsive decisions, such as clicking on an ad or adding an item to a cart. Educational AI, on the other hand, is built to optimize for cognitive retention, critical thinking, and long-term academic growth. In the tech industry, we often hear the phrase, fail fast and break things. As you can see on the left, if an e-commerce algorithm fails, a customer generally gets a wrong product, so probably a brick instead of your Samsung phone, or an experience of a delayed scale. I will arrive by so-and-so time, but I did not arrive, or I'm just reaching out to a customer AI, a bot responds to you, the bot takes you around, but you're not losing anything per se. But what happens in an AI model, which works for education, is that it's not just financial friction, it's not reversible. Look at the right side. In a public open education system like IGNOU, an algorithm failure is going to be an error in student enrollment, credit transfers, remote examination proctoring, automated grading. It derails the entire livelihood and violates their fundamental right to education. The stakes in our sector are incredibly high. That is why educational AI cannot just be a commercial software. With an academic label slapped onto it, it can't just be another AI that does not feel the core. So let's look at the 4 pillars of an open learning AI. Privacy, academic integrity, those are the top concerns cited by educational administrators worldwide, not just here, everywhere. By locking these 4 pillars together, as you see on your screen, we ensure that safety is never treated as an afterthought. So we start with pedagogy. So we talk about tutors, not an easy shortcut that replaces critical thinking. We establish strict data hygiene. We maintain professors in the loop. And we talk about a trusted AI-assisted, administrated, and guiding recommendations, which is fully explainable to the students and reaches human appeal. You have all been part of the agitation. You've spoken about it. You've seen how tests going wrong can be really bad for an organization and a country. It means a lot when you bring in AI. You have to be more responsible and more valued in to be able to bring AI into the system. Therefore, what's important is that you don't reach straight to an answer, but what you do is you go step by step and you look at not just copy-pasting answers, so otherwise you'll lead to plagiarism. If a student was to ask a typical public consumer AI to solve a math problem, the tool will spit out a direct answer. Whereas the dotted line on the left clearly bypasses that cognitive process. Look at the golden staircase. We deploy an advanced cognitive engine built specifically for education. That includes beneficial friction. It becomes students step by step, taking them to solutions, reducing plagiarism, looking at what AI can do for you while you build this. As we go along, we will also show to you how the digital data and the digital hygiene happens within the systems. It's a strict digital identity that we manage. And these AI boxes, they create an immediate data security leak if we violate the national privacy guidelines. So there's a whole lot going on there. We get all your data. As Google, I can assure you, anyone who's using an Android phone uses their personal email ID. It is used to train AI models across the world. So if you were ever thinking that this is not training anything, it is. And it's training the ChatGPTs, it's training OpenAI, it's training Claudes, it's training Gemini. It's very important to understand that when we scale technology for academia, we need to maintain a strict digital boundary. The slide is actionable, it's simple, it is a compliance playbook. The end of it, as you can see, We do not allow any uploading of any term and examinations. We do not allow any consumer AI tools working within an AI system of the education. We also, this is an ad-free private environment where data is explicitly excluded from public model training, ensuring total sovereignty over the institute's intellectual property. This leads to trust and transparency. Loads of people sitting for 20 days, 30 days outside did not understand that transparency is not just about a protest. It's about understanding why the transparency is required. What do we need to understand it? How does it work? Where does it take us? It's all about monitoring and ensuring that remote online exams or any kind of exams are transparent. The results are your own. If an automated proctor tool flags a student for suspicious activity, the algorithm alters the student's course path. The underlying criteria must be fully explainable. And that's the answers that we have been seeking. We're wanting to know what happened, what went wrong that this happened. When you look at AI, we need to have a human in the loop. Every student should have immediate access to clear and human in the loop appeal process to be able to understand how an AI-driven administrative process flags discrepancies. Quick thing about, and I know a lot of our colleagues and faculty members are here, a lot of university professors spent about 40% of their time on routine administrative drafting, formatting, grading, admin work. By using secure AI and to reach out to drafts, teachers can reclaim about 400 hours of academic mentoring time every single year. What do you use that for? You use that for providing deep, empathetic, direct human mentoring to learners. We are able to build all of that within that AI, different AIs. As an education-first architecture, this is the pyramid of how the screen looks, or on the screen that looks, builds a custom-built AI. These are chips that are owned by organizations like Google. The whole stack is owned by Google. You have a sovereign digital parameter in between, which trains your models. Then it integrates into the university's existing workflows. When an AI provider owns the entire stack, the custom silicon chips in the data center, the foundational secure models, the final software, it guarantees absolute data boundaries. And it is remiss to mention that if we were to say Google owns all of the stack, it means that you are the safest within a Google environment, the Gemini environment, not as a commercial person, but as an educator. We look at the progress of Bharat's digital ecosystem, and I want to mention here both an AI and Sarvam AI. Both of these are magnificent. They are sovereign. We can see that they are being developed, and we can see how they sit within the Google system. So all of these are basically guardrails. These are like train rails, which are being set up with all of our IKEA system, Mr. Shroff just mentioned. Think of Sarvam and Bodhan as the foundational local rails. They excel at local linguistic execution, translating curriculum into digitized, complex, handwritten student notebooks, and capturing the local demographic context with incredible accuracy. Think of Google as a natively multimodal cognitive engine and a personal interactive source grounded into notebook platforms as the cognitive engine sits on top of these rails. And this is how we run the IGNOU library. So you take a book from the IGNOU library and you put it through the systems, and you will suddenly see how an AI can develop what he was asking, what he was telling you about creating a podcast. But it does not go outside into the commercial AI or creating a video or creating a comic strip. It still sits within the sovereign content, but it starts to build it, and it automatically builds it. You then remain as teachers, as part of the process, to figure out if the AI either is hallucinating or losing track. And then you bring it back in, and then we go back to the same pyramid. This is the ultimate realization of NEP. We are pairing Indian sovereign digital public infrastructure with the world's most powerful, secure, cognitive reasoning engines to ensure that no learner, regardless of their language, geography, or background, is left behind. We are at a historic moment. It is going to change. A lot of things will change with AI, and this change you will feel in few months, not years, and you'll start to see the difference as it comes along. What is more important as teachers, educators, and students is to understand why we need to continue to remain very, very secure within an environment, to start using this as a tool and not becoming a slave to it. Thank you very much.
So I think we are well within time, and 15 minutes are in our hand. So if anyone from the audience want to ask a question to any one of my experts, please. Sir. Mic, please. नहीं, mic आ गया, sir.
हाँ, नमस्कार. This is Shiv Kumar Vyas, and my question is to sir. When he said that you dramatize also, at that point of time, my fear is that when people go to dramatize it, then the things start changing, because then facts remains away, and we go on changing the words while we are drafting this narration. Then things changes and the meaning becomes something different. We have seen it many times. So there I would say that after, even when the script is there, at that point of time it must be very critically examined whether any facts has been distorted or they are conveying some different meaning, because that fear is always there. Another thing is, we were talking about the values or something. In India, we may claim that we are a very good society, and we have been valuing the human being and others more than what other countries are doing in the Western world. It is not so, sir. It doesn't appear like that. You just go on the road and witness the scene, what we are doing it. We are very self-centric. I want that I should become something, but if you are getting something, then I would say कि नहीं इनको नहीं देना है. मोदी जी तो कहते हैं कि अपनी लाइन बड़ी करो जिससे कि दूसरे से आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो, लेकिन हम ऐसा नहीं करते हैं. हम करते हैं कि हम तो सब हम बढ़ जाएं आगे, लेकिन दूसरों को सबको धक्का दे दो नीचे. तो इस वाली मेंटलिटी नहीं.
आपका क्वेश्चन प्लीज.
हाँ, मैं वही बता रहा हूँ. इस वाली मेंटलिटी से बचने के लिए हम इस तरह के प्रोग्राम्स चलाएं तो वो बेहतर होगा. मैं आजकल देख रहा हूँ जैसे दूरदर्शन है, डीडी न्यूज़ है, यहाँ पे इतने बढ़िया प्रोग्राम्स आते हैं कि जो शायद अभी तक लेकिन लोगों की आदत नहीं हुई है वो, क्योंकि हम तो सारे सीरियल्स देखते रहे इधर उधर, पर दूरदर्शन पे इतना बढ़िया मटेरियल आता है आजकल कि जिसको पता नहीं. अब जितने लोग देखते होंगे तो वो जरूर इसको अप्रिशिएट करेंगे कि दूरदर्शन है चेंज्ड फैंटास्टिकली, dramatically, and if you start watching it, you will learn many things.
Okay.
So I would say that whatsoever programs you are putting, and I think they are coming on Doordarshan also, so that's a fantastic job.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Can I respond, sir? Sir, to your first point, you're absolutely right. So what we do as a framework for our development is we have a separate research team and the writing team. So the research is done by research experts. So in this case, actually, I hired a retired professor of history from Delhi University, and under her, we hired a whole bunch of research scholars. That docket of research then goes to my writers. Second thing is that even that research docket, when it is prepared, I ask for citations from where that information has been picked up, even from my research. So unless I don't see enough citations, we don't go forward. I can tell you, sir, that I must have scrapped at least 25 scripts. Fantastic stories, great stories. I know that they'll become very good entertaining material, but I didn't have enough citations, so we dropped them. So we do our authenticity checks, sir. And I think somewhere the way we work as a studio, there are enough checks and balances. I can tell you, sir, that Bharat-e-Hum, the kind of level of scrutiny that is undergone through is tremendous. The content is vetted by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. The content is vetted by Institute of Council of Historical Research, ICHR. It is vetted by Netflix. It is vetted by Amazon. It is vetted by all the 28, almost 30 channels of Doordarshan, right? तो सर इस लेवल ऑफ स्क्रूटनी मुझे नहीं लग रहा है कि अपने देश में ऑनेस्टली किसी भी शो में हुई होगी. मैं आपको सर दावे के साथ बोल सकता हूँ. एंड आई थिंक टुडे आफ्टर द शो बीइंग इन पब्लिक डोमेन फॉर मोर देन 2 years, there has been not a single case against us. There has been not a single social media comment against us कि ये गलत है, right? And I say this with a huge amount of responsibility and pride in my team. On the second part, sir, I think honestly, what we do as a society, I think very hard to comment. But yes, I think I can only say that as a storyteller, I think if perhaps we produce good content, we share good content, maybe it will help our society become better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other question of any other participant?
Yes, please. Professor Gaurav, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Saab, for presenting such a nice way and effective way of communicating the things. And obviously, there is a lot of potential to use the technology and to put technology across the fields. And obviously, there are different things and different perspectives associated with what kind of subject matter can be taken up and what kind of presentation for that may be possible. That is obviously one issue of research. And as far as Dr. Niti Verma's presentation is concerned, you are from a technology giant and we know, and sometimes we say, in fact, you as a technology know we individual more than what we know to ourselves. So that is the level of the technology reaching to us and some kind of disruptions technologies are making. In addition to that, as you mentioned that in Indian context or Indian knowledge system, we are having less content available for the LLMs basically. So what is your take on that, that how actually Indian knowledge system can be incorporated in the development process and how that particular is going to help to our basic level or grassroots level, school level learners to cope up with the things and obviously to take the technology forward. And we all know without moving along with the technology, we are nowhere and we must have to do that. So on that, I need your observation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Couple of things to mention there. I absolutely and fully agree that most of the LLMs have been trained, or most of these tools have been trained on the Western content as of now. But what has also happened is that over the years, and a few companies like ourselves, because we own the entire stack, we are now reaching out to a lot of content providers and content creators in India. So I'm working very closely with Brahat. I'm working with Sarvam. We are looking at it from a very different angle, and in fact, Google's spending a lot of money to actually bring this content into Gemini. We are very committed to it. So effectively, if you were to look at how Google looks at it, and I would like to mention Sundar Pichai here, is that he looks at it as his own country and wants to ensure that all of our cultural content and the entire wealth that we have sits within the systems of these engines and these generative tools. Because at some point of time when the agents start to come in and the agent AI brings in, is being brought in, we need to have a very holistic view of the world. So we are not saying it is either or. What we are trying to do is to bring everything in. Now the challenge is that the content that we have within our country, and Mr. Shroff would agree on that, is like, it's exploratory. We've got to go deep to find it. And it just takes a little bit extra time. But what I would say is that the intention is there and we are very committed to it. So I'd like to lay to rest any doubts that people may have if Gemini would have IKS. Yes, we have an entire team looking at it and we are buying content, we are procuring it, we are putting money behind it to ensure that it's valued well as well. We are not picking it up. A lot of these things you will hear in news as well. There are a lot of scraping of content happens. Gemini does not do that.
Thank you. So thank you very much to both the speakers. Thank you, Mr. Munjal, for showing us that how we can translate the existing content in a very fascinating way, in an engaging way, because you say that how we can use technology for most exciting and engaging manner in the education. That is important. I am very much stuck in your statement that AVGC XR is not a subject, it is a new pedagogy. So we need to learn this new language of learning. We need to learn that how the education could be entertaining. As far as IGNOU is concerned, our take is, I think, that what is the learning for us as IGNOU faculty is that we should now move towards a multi-model content development. Multiple platforms simultaneously we should use so that we should create a content not focusing on a particular platform like only for TV or only for radio. Let us think about multiple platforms. Multilingual content should be created and entertaining educational delivery is very important. So these are the few points which I draw out from your presentation. Thank you, Ms. Niti, for your very good view that how AI can be used and where teachers should be in the loop. I think AI for personalized adaptive learning is the emerging area, which is in the school education already started. In higher education also, I think we should start about it. We should use technology to amplify the reach and potential of the teacher towards the students, and technology must serve to the pedagogy. A very important statement and very bold statement you says that AI or any other technology, it should serve to the pedagogy. So your 4 pillars, pedagogy, privacy, integrity, and trust, are the key takeaways of this session. With this, I thank you once again for this session, and now I'm handing over the session to Professor Monica.
Thank you, Mr. Munjal and Dr. Niti. You have really reflected on the paradigm shift or disruption which we have to think upon in the teaching learning process. We really appreciate the different perspective of NEP 2020, and our heartfelt thanks to the moderator, Professor Gaurav. We are about to close this session, and before that, I would now request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Uma Kanjilal, to felicitate the speakers of the session with a token of gratitude. The painting is being done by a master's student from School of Performing and Visual Arts under the mentorship of Professor Lakshman Prasad. Thank you, everyone. We will just need a 2 minutes break till we prepare for the next session. Please be seated.
Thank you very much.
I welcome the audience once again to the last session of the deliberation, which would be a panel discussion on the theme Innovation and Entrepreneurship under NEP 2020 from Policy to Practice. The panelists are Mr. Shailen Jaiswal, Lead Mentor, Srijan Sanchar, and former Principal Executive Director, DRDO, Professor Jitendra Das, Founder and CEO, OptiServe Dynamics, and former Professor and Founder, Dean, Noida Campus of IIM Lucknow, Professor Satish Kumar Dubey from IIT Delhi, and Dr. Venugopal S., Senior General Manager, SIFI Technology. The session will be moderated by Dr. Jyotsna Dikshit, Director, National Center for Innovation and Distance Education, IGNOU. I now invite the speakers and the moderator to please come up on the dais. I would now request Dr. Jyotsna to just give a brief introduction about the theme of the panel discussion and a brief introduction about the speakers, the panelists.
Thank you very much, Dr. Monica. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Wishing you all a very happy Guru Purnima and the 6th anniversary of the NEP 2020. Today, when we deliberate upon the theme, which is Innovation and Entrepreneurship under NEP 2020 from policy to practice, it has strengthened in a big way the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in our university. Basically, the NEP 2020 envisions higher education institutions, including ODL institutions, or I must say ODD institutions, not merely as centers of knowledge dissemination, but also epicenters for a dynamic ecosystem which enhances creativity of the learners and all the stakeholders, including faculty members, research, innovation, problem solving, and entrepreneurship. IGNOU, in spite being an ODD institution, has translated the vision of NEP 2020 into institutional practice by creating and strengthening an innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem within the university through National Center for Innovations and Distance Education, institutions, innovation council, innovation clubs, innovation and startup policy of the institution, and the patent unit. In fact, I would like to mention here that IGNOU has also developed various digital platforms for innovation and entrepreneurship, as our students are geographically apart from us, they are distributed, and a lot of innovation and entrepreneurship activities have been conducted through our regional outreach, through capacity development programs, through mentoring sessions, organizing competitions linked with the pre-incubation programs, participation in national international hackathons where our students have stood as the top performers or even gained the 2nd and 3rd positions. AI-enabled innovations, intellectual property support, showcasing and documentation of innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives in the university. Hundreds of students and alumni have received structured pre-incubation trainings, networking, mentoring, hand-holding, and virtual incubation support through our virtual incubator, Navreet. We also have an idea to startup scheme. We have several pre-incubation programs, one of the important one being the Devi program for our budding women entrepreneurs, and the other one is the SEED program for the students and alumni of IGNOU. through the 12 innovation clusters comprising of 58 regional centers across the country, innovation clubs, digital platforms, and online communities, IGNOU has extended these opportunities to the learners who are geographically dispersed and who are away from us. The university is also working towards a physical incubation center and regional centers as innovation hubs. Now, when we stand here at the juncture when we are about to develop an incubation center and innovation hubs at various regional centers, it is expected from this panel discussion that our panelists will suggest a way forward to further implement NEP-2020 vision by integrating innovation and entrepreneurship into the curriculum, further strengthening research and ideas into products and enterprises, strengthening startup support in the ODDE context, and leveraging AI and deep technologies and supporting our students and faculty who are actually working on these deep technologies or are interested in doing so. So we have 4 distinguished panelists, each addressing a specific dimension under this theme. Each panelist will have approximately 10 to 12 minutes. This will be followed by a brief interaction if time permits, and we plan to identify priority actions and develop a way forward for IGNOU. Now I will introduce our esteemed panelist. Dr. J.K. Das has served as Director General and Director of Ford School of Management and as Founder Dean of IIM Lucknow's Noida campus. He has taught at IIM Lucknow, IIM Kozhikode, IIM Ahmedabad, and leading institutions in Singapore and Austria. He has led international faculty development programs, contributed to curriculum innovation, and consulted for organizations including the World Bank, USAID, SIDA, Government of India, and so on. An accomplished author and researcher, he now advises universities while championing initiatives that nurture nature and empower communities. Another panelist, Professor Satish Kumar Dubey, is currently professor at SAINS IT Delhi. After completing his PhD from IT Delhi, he worked with CSIO CSIR, Coherent Singapore, DRDO's IRDE, and corporate R&D at Siemens Bangalore. His expertise lies in electro-optic sensors and imaging technologies for industrial and healthcare applications. He has successfully completed several R&D projects and industrial consultancies and has supervised 10 PhD students till date. He has more than 100 publications, 4 granted patents, and 10 patent applications filed nationally and internationally, with him being a co-inventor. Another panelist, Dr. Venugopal Reddy, is a technology executive, entrepreneur, director, investor, and strategic advisor with an experience of over 23 years of global IT experience, and most importantly, he is an IGNOU alumnus. He holds a PhD in artificial intelligence and machine learning, an MCA and MBA, and an LLB in intellectual property and cyber law. He has founded or co-founded more than 8 companies and advises organizations across the US, the UK, EMEA, and other regions. His expertise include IT, architecture, Microsoft Dynamics, DevOps, microservices, data engineering, and business intelligence. He contributed to the development of the Reserve Bank of India's central bank digital currency system and drafted its draft security policy. He's also developed the World Bank's road estimator software for highway construction. Another eminent panelist, Mr. Shailendra N. Jaiswal, is an innovation strategist, institution builder with over 4 decades of leadership spanning government, academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. He has held senior positions in DRDO and Indian Railways. Currently, he is Director of Incubators of CSJM University, Kanpur, and CCSU, Meerut. He is also Director of ALNA International and ECTIC Limited, Moscow, Russia, and Governor's nominee on Executive Council of CCS University. He's also Professor of Practice for Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Incubation at Hemchand Yadav University, Durg, and CCS University. He has led numerous initiatives in innovation management, technology development, organizational transformations, and continuous improvement. His current work focuses on translating the vision of NEP-2020 into practice through entrepreneurship education, startup ecosystem development, industry academia collaboration, responsible AI, and capacity building models for open, distance, and digital learning institutions. So I welcome all our panelists here today. And now I request Dr. Jitendra K. Das to share his ideas on integrating innovation and entrepreneurship into course curriculum. You may speak from there.
A very good afternoon to you all. Thank you, Professor Dr. Joshna Dikshit ji. I'm really privileged to be here this afternoon to share my views on this specific theme of integrating innovation and entrepreneurship into the curriculum. The NEP 2020, my background is in terms of coming from the PGDM and MBA institutions. I am Lucknow earlier and Ford School of Management later on. So we looked at the NEP 2020 essentially from the postgraduate or higher education perspective, and looking at it, how much flexibility that we have in terms of bringing in creativity in the entire curriculum. When you look at the NEP per se, it is actually a blueprint for creating a nation of problem solvers, innovators, job creators, and responsible citizens. The amount of flexibility that the NEP 2020 gives is unparalleled in the independent history of India. In fact, somebody had asked me for my brief comment on NEP 2020 around the time when it was released. I all say that, very simply stated, it is a breath of fresh air. Suddenly makes you feel that you have a lot of things in your control, and as an institution, you can bring in a lot of freshness into the entire curriculum design that you would want to deliver. So that's in a nutshell what NEP 2020 is all about, and it's up to you how much you can leverage the basic policy framework to benefit the students. So the question is that, can innovation remain an optional activity outside the classroom, or must it become an integral part of learning itself? If you look at the initiatives of NICDE, National Institute for Innovation and Distance Education, and SEED, essentially all the creativity and the output that has come through activities outside the classroom, by and large. So the question is that, should we just look at it purely from outside the classroom perspective, or should we bring it into the curriculum, and which is the main theme today? To delve into this, I would like to briefly, for a few seconds, a minute or so, get into the history of India. We are all familiar with the term, India was a Sone ki chiriya, the golden bird. Why was it so? Because it was opulent, it had net trade surplus, there was gold and bullion or silver all across the country, and by and large, people who were living outside India, they thought India being a very rich country. Now, why was India rich? It was essentially through trade. And if you look at the trade balance data of, say, almost going back to almost AD 10 or AD 100 to 1700 or 1750 until that time, there's a formal study done also in this. And the trade surplus, or the contribution of India into the world trade was hovering around 28 to 35%. Today, it is on an average, considering the service sector and the goods sales sector, it is around 2.5 to 3%. Those days, the natural resources not traded that much. For example, the crude oil and minerals. So that adds to the volume of world trade, which is being done today. So that can account majorly for the drop in the world trade share of India. Nonetheless, India was a major force those days of trade surplus. And this was coming essentially because of India was exporting either a manufactured item or a created item or a farm produce. So India was a leader those days. So why the other countries were not able to have those manufactured or created configured items? Essentially, I would say that this is because of the enterprise of the Indian people. So there was something in here where there were innovators across the street, across the villages in India. Somewhere down the line, we lost it. Now is the time for us to get back that competency and get into the mode of becoming an entrepreneur by becoming an innovator to begin with and contribute to the national growth. IGNOU, being a large university with reach running into, I would say, crores of students across the country, is very appropriately placed to look into how to go about formalizing people becoming innovators and therefore entrepreneurs. Now, some of the data that I bumped into while trying to prepare myself for this particular talk, that through the, the IGNOU, through the NCI-DE and the SEED program, has some measurable outputs. Now, these outputs are essentially coming through the activities of NCI-DE or the SEED or the innovation competitions or the idea banks or some startup festivals or some incubation initiatives. Now, so the figures that I got was that over the period of time, IGNOU as a whole has come up with 300 innovative ideas, 80 innovations, 40 business plans, 65 startup initiatives, and these are, I would say, disaggregated in the sense that they're not so much in the formal part of the IGNOU's activity. They are out of the classroom activity. And which is where the potential lies in getting that into the mainstream. Now, if you look at the call that NEP-2020 has given, in multiple times in the entire document, they talk of, there's a need for creativity, critical thinking, experiential learning, multidisciplinary education, research and innovation, entrepreneurship, flexibility through multiple entry and exit, which is to maintaining record of the academic credits, and making the entire learning process a lot more flexibility. So the question is, how should this output that IGNOU has produced should actually be produced by students, which runs into lakhs and lakhs and if not crores, to address these issues of how do I identify problems, how do I design solutions, how do I validate ideas, and how do I build prototypes and create value. Because any of these innovations and entrepreneurship has a journey. It goes through a process. That has happened. Now, this has happened in the way I think it is in the informal process. That means through outside the classroom activities. Now, if you look at the strengths of IGNOU being a very large open university, it has a nationwide reach, learners across disciplines. There are rural learners, or rather I would say the nominal friction for anybody who's wanted to learn can learn by getting associated with various activities of the IGNOU. And the size and the capacity of IGNOU to reach out to all these students across the country is humongous. If you look at the digital education or distance learning based capacity of IGNOU, it's just humongous. So how can the output of IGNOU in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship be tagged onto this strength of IGNOU through the distance learning mode? So, I put a thought, how do I look into this? We have tried to do a similar course in the MBA curriculum, trying to figure out how do I convert these MBA grads into not job seekers, but job creators. and trying to inculcate some part into the curriculum. We were not able to include things into the curriculum to that extent, but we were able to do a lot of outside the classroom activities, for the simple reason that we are bound by traditions. See, when you are doing a regular degree programs, you have to give them degrees, which means you have to have the evaluation done for the students, which means they have to be examined. Now, a traditional way of examination is pen and paper. So when you do a pen and paper examination, then that's okay if their learning is in the same format, which is, you know, you have a book, you have a text, you have a existing set of knowledge, and the students pick that up, and you ask questions, and they respond, and you evaluate. Now, when it comes to innovation or creativity, there has to be a different way of, evaluating students. And this where we got stuck, and we stopped, looking into the curriculum part, but we were able to do it in terms of practice. So I put a thought to this, and then, we said that why, and I'm trying to relate that into the existing issue that we are discussing, that we should try to do two ways of inculcating this knowledge base into the curriculum. We can have some foundation courses, some basic foundation courses. We can call it Foundation 1 or Foundation 2. And the other model is what we call the micro level stackable credits. That means you split the entire entrepreneurship or innovation course into 4 and 5 tiers, and mapping into the IGNOU format. Those 4 and 5 tiers or levels can be split into independent micro courses. So these micro courses can be taken up under the digital platform, and because of the academic credit flexibility that we are able to do now, the students can take up these micro innovation and entrepreneurship courses in short duration and come back later on. So instead of it becoming a fixed tenured degree program, it can actually turn into a life learning, where if you have a 5-tier or a 10-tier or a 20-tier of content for a certain set of innovation and entrepreneurship, which can go into the domain specifics. You can do it in agriculture, you can do it in education, you can do it in IT, and so on and so forth. So then it can turn into a life learning experience for large number of students who are spread across the country. And so therefore, that's how one can look into this. And I recollect one quote from, I don't know, from Indian author, Indian scientist, or Einstein, I'm not very sure. It says that education traditionally is trying to pick up things which is existing in the world. Education should be not looked at that, but education should be looked at training the mind to learn new things. So, looking at IGNOU's strength of digital education, you can actually bring in that kind of intervention in the entire education system by bringing in this micro learning, creating this micro create system based on innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das. In fact, the point which you have highlighted, it is very important that we cannot take innovation and entrepreneurship activities in isolation. They have to be very systematically embedded into our course curriculums, and the ideas which you have shared, that yes, we can have micro-credentials as well as we can have foundation courses on innovation and entrepreneurship. Though we already have a master's program in entrepreneurship development, we have management degrees in health sciences, in agriculture, and so on. But still, if at the foundation level also, if we provide certain courses on innovation and entrepreneurship, then certainly the masses which we are looking at, that at least each and every one of our students, they are being introduced to something like which maybe in the future they could turn their ideas into ventures. They might be startups, they might be any business venture. So thank you very much. And now I invite our next panelist, Professor Satish Kumar Dubey, to share his perspectives on from research to innovation and commercialization.
Thank you, Professor Jyotsna, and thank you, Vice Chancellor and the colleagues. So I'll also give a brief about what, I have been given a topic from research to innovation and commercialization. So I'll try to give my perspective about this. One thing before starting I would like to say that IGNOU has no dearth of innovation. It has a lot of innovation because I have gone through the data, the reports and all that. So it has IGNOU as a university, I think it has the highest level of distribution asset. So I think we need to capitalize on that and try to see that the innovation which has been done which is supposed to be done, how it can be commercialized or it can be brought to the market. So with this, maybe I'll just point out few things. One is basically I would like to reframe the pipeline for an open distance learning university, then IGNOU's own funnel, then of course the asset which are already there with the IGNOU, what are the gaps and what can be done to mitigate or address those gaps. So typically when we talk about the innovation or incubation, so what comes into the mind? Basically starts with the idea. We come up with some idea, then we try to do basically protect the IP, then we try to do some prototyping. Once we do the prototyping, we go to the validation, then we go into the licensing, commercialization and all that. But this is typical of a standard university system. The system where there are laboratories, physical laboratories. But as we know that IGNOU is an open university, so I think we should try to think differently in this context, and we should not really worry about the universities, the laboratory system as such. Rather, we should focus on what we have and how we can take it forward to the field. And I can relate to it because the mandate of my laboratory at IIT Delhi is we are working on the techniques or the technologies that can be taken to the field. So of course there are n number of techniques and things which are already available, but unfortunately most of these technologies, they are confined to the labs only because of multiple reasons. So the idea here is we try to work upon the asset which the university has and bring it to the field. So basically what are the assets of the IGNOU? It's not about the laboratory, because what I feel, the lab for IGNOU is not just a classroom or a building, but it is the entire country which is the lab, it is the field for IGNOU. So we should try to work in that field, that direction. So the strengths, when I say, that is basically the pedagogy, content, assessment design, learner data, vernacular knowledge, delivery system, and the overall, if we say it is the reach, you have reached across the entire nation. Almost every district has its center. Then it has also 21 schools of studies, 67 regional centers, nearly 2,000 learner support centers, and there are 500,000 active learners. 3.5 million active learners, which I could collect the data from IGNOU reports only. So we can say it is one of the largest university. So of course it has all that. So now coming to what exactly it possesses in terms of IP, intellectual property, or you can say the innovation. So if I go through the report from 2020 to 2024, just within 4 years, around 419 innovations were reported, around 520 plus ideas, 105 prototypes, 30 IP generated, including I think around 21 patents, then 69 ventures, startups, etc. So if we see that, if we try to monitor how the progress is, so idea to ideation to prototyping, it's around 20%. It is really a very good number, I must say. Then next thing is prototyping to protected IP. around 30%. That also is a very good number. But what exactly, I mean, after that? So all these ideas are the prototyping, are the protected IPs. So can we try to see if it can be used to generate some revenue or something in that direction? That is what we need to look into. So of course, when we say that how it can be done, we know that there are around 3.5 million registered learners who are there with IGNOU, and that is not a very small number, it is a very big number, I must say. And out of them, around 3,000 of them are basically registered on IGNOU Udyami portal. That also is a reasonably good number, and it has, it has already devised some frameworks like board approved innovation and startup policy, virtual incubator with over 1 lakh users, patent facility unit, 45 innovation clubs, regional centers, mentoring scheme, idea banks, and over 300 entries. So, and if I think it had already got the prize, the first prize in hackathon also, and it was selected by the ministry to mentor other institutions as well, right? So in fact twice. So I mean, when we say all this is not just a number, but it is an asset to the IGNOU, and this can be basically utilized for further commercialization of the ideas or the asset what you have, the digital asset, I must say. So what are the assets in the cupboard? I'll just mention few examples. One is basically, I was going through one of the reports, and what I could, I was really pleasantly surprised to see that, IGNOU has developed digital training package on integrated management of neonatal and childhood illness. So it was basically developed by the School of Health Sciences, and it was funded by the World Health Organization, I believe. So this one, they were able to develop a digital training package which can be run for 1.5 days, and it has the experimental experimental part included in it. So, and the report of the, when it was vetted by the WHO, the assessment was that it was superior to the 5-day face-to-face package of the government of India itself. So why can't it be utilized? I think this kind of model, it can be utilized by almost all the state, health departments of all the states. So it can be taken up. So it can be in fact licensed. So in fact this data or this idea is freely available. So this can be in fact licensed. There should be a license fee. So what I feel it can be utilized in that way. That is one example. Then the second one is web-enabled academic service, WEAS. So there are around 54 programs, 4.5 lakh users, built on almost no infrastructure. It is all digital. So this is a product that any of the India's 14+ state open university can directly adopt. It can be licensed to them. It can be kind of marketed. So I feel that is another thing which is already existing and it can be utilized. Then the third thing what I came across was ResearchMate. So this one, it's a multi-purpose digital, digital platform wherein there is question bank, audio books, virtual labs, multilingual content engine. So why can't we tap onto these resources, these infrastructure? And what I could learn from the reports and the data that IGNOU is already working on the BOT model, that is build, operate and transfer model. So only thing is it has to be highlighted and it should be properly harnessed, all these things. These were just 3 examples I gave. I think there might be many more examples and the products which are already there with you, so that can be basically licensed. So if I say, where are the gaps, where we can in fact go ahead? So there is no commercial vehicle as such, I must say. So typically, whether it is IITs, when we say, when we talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship, we typically say that, I mean, we typically compare with the IITs, ISCs, or other tech institutes. I cannot comment upon management institutes because I'm not qualified enough and there are experts already. So the thing is, all these institutions, they have 6 and 8 companies. They can basically, they are authorized to sign on the licenses, the technology transfer and all that. So I think IGNOU probably, does not have that 6 and 8 company that can be in fact incorporated. That is one thing. And second thing is no incentive to the faculties. So the faculties, the mentors who are involved in these kind of activities, the innovation, startup, so basically they are giving their valuable time, energy, and knowledge. So they must be appreciated. Typically when there are forms like the promotion forms and all, we go into, okay, how many publications, what are the courses, all that. But there should be a column that, okay, what are the innovations, what are the technology transfers, all those things should also be incorporated. I mean, that's my suggestion. Then the alumni base, see, there are more than 3.5 million registered users. Why can't we tap onto this alumni network? So they will not only, and I was really pleasantly surprised again when I saw one of the panelists as the alumni of this own university. So basically these things can be done. It can be basically harnessed to not only get the funds or the things, but of course they can be the mentors, facilitators, because they are in the open market and they know how it can be taken forward. So the credit system also, I think innovations sits outside the credit system, so that can be incorporated in the credit system also. So these are the gaps which I could find out, and I feel if we address these gaps, we will be able to basically see that what is the actual outcome. That is basically the inputs we already know, but the outcome in terms of the finances or in terms of the knowledge transfer, the technology transfer, the IP transfers, commercialization, and if we monitor them over a period of, let's say, 3 to 5 years and see what are the outcomes based upon all these points, then it will be really a very good way to celebrate the NEP 2020. So with this, I would like to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to give my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dubey. In fact, we are in the process of establishing a Section 8 company, and you'll be happy to know that we have 58 regional centers, and the centers which have their own buildings will be having innovation hubs, and they will be having incubators which are sector specific. And the other regional centers, we will be having a virtual incubation kind of a facility for them. And the gaps which we analyzed, and the tech transfer and commercialization which we are talking, so we are fully confident that once our incubation facility is in place, these kinds of facility of tech transfer will also take place. And our institution's innovation and startup policy does mention about startups and innovation by the faculty and crediting them for the same. But thank you very much for your suggestions. Now I invite Dr. Venugopal to share his perspective on technology, AI, and deep tech innovations. As Dr. Venugopal, being a student of IGNOU, you know that our students, they are working in deep tech, they are working in AI. So what are your suggestions even for our professional program students, that how they could best effectively use AI for their innovations, for their startups, and simultaneously what kind of a mechanism we can have when we do not have a deep tech laboratory here or a deep tech facility here, how we can facilitate and help our learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jyotsna, for this opportunity. And overall, as an IGNOU alumni, I just understand one thing, that IGNOU promotes one very basic and a very great thing, which is innovation at the bottom of the pyramid. Which means that you have a lot of student population which works out and are remotely connected, and they connect with the classes around, and they are just doing innovation, plus they are studying in a setup which is post-COVID, what most was a dream for a lot of universities, and now they have started doing it, which IGNOU has been doing for years. And I've experienced this, and the good thing would be that I have experienced IGNOU's study centers and examination centers abroad, which are out of India, which is a genuine opportunity for people who think of IGNOU as a university. The tagline says the people's university. So it's very, very important, and a lot of things are, very important for IGNOU, wherein they are able to basically take it as their advantage, which is more towards how exactly innovation can be done by the students, alumni, and sir already mentioned that, the kind of alumni base we have, the people who are working are basically into this. Now coming back to the topic of deep tech. So what exactly today's need of the hour is? The hardware. Everything in deep tech, India is more focused on the softwares and developing, solutions around the softwares which we have, and, more towards certain solutions around which can be used by the relevant platforms. But what we lack is the underlying hardware, which is the silicon, wherein a lot of research is required. People are now looking, companies who are coming in India or who are researching around. I was in a discussion with a company who is planning to invest in India in 2028 and 2029. So they are basically looking at a perspective where they want that how we can look beyond the relevant hardware which we have as of today, and what can be done around that. But that platform system is failing because a lot of people are developing their own, LLMs, LLUs and all their models, but they're not able to implement it because of certain dependencies around the overall adoption of it. Because for when you create a chip, a hardware is there. NVIDIA is one of the popular one right now. So what happens with NVIDIA is you have a great support system, developers like it because they have to implement it. The need of the hour is to make something, it can be the best innovation in the world, but the support system is the key for success in the commercial world. So NVIDIA is growing because of that. People are comfortable with it, they learn in college, and they just go ahead and they work out of it. And that is what happens out there, is that a lot of local support is there for that, and that's making the hardware of NVIDIA popular. And it's, though being expensive and though being on cloud, not able to basically provide the right outputs or reaching to the, innovative people who can do it. We are working towards that, and that is something wherein the students of IGNOU can contribute towards making the models around adaptability of these LLMs, wherein they can work out on the, softwares which are required, the tools which are required to basically work on it. So now what happens is there are many small compute units which are doing, and if you see the recent innovation wherein Zoho has invested, it's more of a chip which will work on a end computer rather than running on cloud. That is the need what India needs. We don't need large language models which is using a lot of hardware to run, because in India we need innovation at the, as I said, at the bottom of the pyramid. So it's at the end computing level, because we are not something who are connected with multiple gig of internets, and it can having access to the cloud, and we are having the remotest village as of today also, wherein if you travel you will see that the network is less. You might be on 5G today, but you don't get 5Gs at that locations, and therein you need innovation. And the good thing is you have a student population there, you have a program there running, you have centers who are supporting them. You're already talking about innovation hubs which can be set up, and we are in process. And the good thing would be that you just enable certain innovation around that, so that those can be supporting the industry as well as the relevant models which are running, and they should be low cost and low high performance model which can give results, rather than, because India is one of the hubs where a lot of models fail. I have recently, last year I was working with one of the leading publishing organization newspapers. They were trying to create an asset repository because they're a 100-plus-year-old newspaper. They wanted just, you know, to do asset monetization. So they were using Google's celebrity recognized API, because we had a Google person from Google coming in, wherein they were telling about our local LLMs are not, you know, so effective and all. They had already mentioned that. So we were able to see that there were only accuracy of 25%, because it was not able to recognize young Amitabh Bachchan from Satya Pe Satta vis-a-vis the Amitabh Bachchan you have today, because it's a more of a, it was an asset monetization software. So nowadays there is a trend on Netflix and all, where then they want to create documentaries just by pulling in all videos and all. And it's a big publishing house. They have a history. They have all these records there. They have everything. They have a Declaration of Independence. They have a photograph of you know, Nehru signing it, Nehruji going ahead working on it. They have everything with their asset repository, which they're paying millions and millions of dollars to maintain that, and that's not being done in this. So there are, we used, you know, then we shifted to certain computing algorithms. If we did, we developed a LLM model for them, which they were able to do with a mix of a lot of other platforms as well. But yes, that can be achieved. So there is a lot of scope for that innovation. And if we look at it, IGNOU is one of the right candidates as of today, because now there is a disconnected mode of learning happening with all the young individuals. Every university is adopting it. They are setting up AI labs, AI experience centers, and you know, they are trying to use, there's a recent RFP by Jharkhand government where they want the avatars of teacher to do virtual learnings using AI, who takes right from the attendance to closure of the classes every day, because at the remote village, teachers are not able to reach the classrooms. So IGNOU can contribute a lot to that. So that is where is the key, wherein I think NEP-2020 was the initial milestone for that, and that will really help in developing that. We have came a lot on this initiative, that we have gone ahead, we have virtualized learning, we have gone ahead, we have made it excellent platforms like SWAM and all, which are running. IGNOU has their own distance learning platform, and they are like channels, they have radio stations, you have TV channels. So reach is excellent. Innovation IGNOU has been doing, and it's reaching out. But for the commercialization, as Sir said, and for getting and reaching out the right users plus reaching the industry, IGNOU is the right candidate, and I think that is they are on the right path doing this. And NEP-2020 with the hardware innovation would really help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Venugopal. In fact, one of the ideas which we can get from here is that we have our professional programs in computer applications, we have a master's programs in data science. So why not, with the collaboration of the industry, we could actually give projects to our students, which basically could turn out into startups and also facilitate the Viksit Bharat vision and Viksit Bharat at 2047. So maybe a kind of a collaborative model would be very effective, specifically in the deep tech and AI areas. Thank you very much, Dr. Venugopal. And now coming to our last but very eminent speaker, eminent panelist, Mr. Shailendra Jaiswalji. Sir, I have two tasks for you. Number one is that you will be sharing your ideas on startup development in the ODD context, and simultaneously you will be giving your remarks as how now, with all these deliberation, 3 to 4 points in the direction which IGNOU should move in the at least coming 1 to 2 years.
आज गुरु पूर्णिमा का दिन है और सब गुरु लोग हैं, तो आप सब लोगों को प्रणाम। पर मैं एक चीज़ कहना चाहता हूँ, ये इनोवेशन और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप बहुत अजीब प्रकार की चीज़ है। तो मैं आपको एक कहानी सुनाना चाहता हूँ, और सर ने पिक्चर से स्टार्ट किया, तो पिक्चर से अच्छा कुछ होता नहीं। तो एक पिक्चर है, इसका नाम है इजाज़त। पता नहीं आप में से कितने लोगों ने इस पिक्चर के बारे में सुना है, बहुत अच्छी बात। इस पिक्चर में बहुत फेमस गाना है, हाँ, मेरा सामान मुझको लौटा दो। अब ये गाना राजदीप सरदेसाई ने बहुत फेमस कर दिया। मैं इस गाने का बैकग्राउंड आपको बताना चाहता हूँ। तो ये पिक्चर के डायरेक्टर, राइटर और लेखक सब कुछ गुलजार है, वेरी एमिनेंट, यू कांट बी बेटर देन गुलजार। तो गुलजार ने एक कहानी सुनाई कि इस पिक्चर में जब वो गाना लिख रहे थे, जिस पिक्चर में खुद डायरेक्टर थे, तो उसके म्यूज़िक डायरेक्टर थे मिस्टर राहुल देव बर्मन। तो उन्होंने ले जा कर के ये गाना उनको बताया
तो राहुल देव बर्मन ने कहा कि ये अच्छी प्रोज है, गाना कहाँ है? तो ये तो गाना ही गाना है। तो राहुल देव बर्मन ने अपने डायरेक्टर के ऊपर वो सारा कागज़ फेंक दिया कि ये तो बहुत ही मतलब चलेगा नहीं। उसके बाद व्हेन दिस सॉन्ग वाज डन, इसकी हिस्ट्री ये है कि आशा भोसले स्टार्टेड गाना गुनगुनाने लगी, स्टार्टेड हमिंग, एंड देन राहुल देव बर्मन picked it up. So innovation, friends, and entrepreneurship is a team game. It is not only in the area of ideation. Ideation is done in universities, colleges, labs, but it also needs to go to the market. तो बड़ी अच्छी बात है, शाम का समय कम है, आप चिट देने वाले हो तो मैं कहूँगा अब हम पैसे की बात करने वाले, ठीक है ना? तो आई थिंक सबको अच्छा लगेगा। पैसे की बात करने वाले, सुबह से बुद्धि विलास, आपने बोला शिक्षा संकल्प, मैं बोलूँगा उद्यम से सिद्धि। और सिद्धि किस चीज़ की आप सबको मालूम है। सो वी आर नाउ गेटिंग इनटू द रियल वर्ल्ड। सो यू हैव अ ह्यूज नेटवर्क, एवरीबडी सेड इट, बट अब आपको अपने नेटवर्क को कंटेक्चुअलाइज करना है। नो व्हाट आई मीन बाय दिस, ऑल ऑफ अस हु हैव कम टू योर hallowed institution have literally passed through hell today. जो लोग आज आए हैं, we have passed through hell. मैं आपसे मैम ये कहना चाहूँगा, वाइस चांसलर मैम से, to this problem that IGNOU is facing, we must come out with a solution. How can we solve this problem of transport? इससे बड़ा मेरे ख्याल से लाइव प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो सकता है, और इसको सॉल्व करना है. And if you can suggest something, I think it will get a great service to this area, Chhatarpur, all around great service to you all. और मैं ऐसा बोलूँगा, मेरे पास एक सुझाव भी है, एक सोल्यूशन भी है. आप कहेंगे I'll come and discuss with you, and that is get a ropeway made. And if you want, I happen to be associated with the company which makes ropeways. You are aware, in Banaras we have made ropeways. देखो ऐसा है, आपके पास कितना भी अच्छा आइडिया, माय फ्रेंड हियर इज़ अ मार्केटिंग एक्सपर्ट, अगर आपको बेचना नहीं आता है ना, तो आइडिया आपके घर पे रह जाएगा. मैं आपसे दूसरी चीज़ कहना चाहता हूँ. मैम आई एम गोइंग अवे, आप बता देना, रोक देना, चिटा भेज देते मुझे मालूम. सी, आप सब लोग शिक्षक हैं, स्टूडेंट हैं, यू हैव गॉट लॉट ऑफ नॉलेज, एवरीथिंग इज देयर. मैं आप लोगों को एक चैलेंज देना चाहता हूँ. वेरी डाउटफुल एनीबडी विल पास दिस एग्जाम. Do you know what is the topic of PhD of Dr. Manmohan Singh? Anybody here knows? I doubt you would know. So Dr. Manmohan Singh, 2 PhDs, Prime Minister, every single post you can imagine. अगर उनकी PhD के बारे में आपको नहीं मालूम है, तो किस प्रोफेसर की PhD के बारे में मालूम होगा? मैं मतलब आगे मुझे बोलने की आवश्यकता नहीं. Why am I bringing this? कि मार्केटिंग में और सेलिंग में और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में एक चीज़ है जिसको कहते हैं, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. सो फर्स्ट यू हैव टू कंटेक्चुअलाइज, जहाँ जहाँ आपके सेंटर है, दे मस्ट लुक एट लोकल प्रॉब्लम. सो बिकम हाइपर वोकल फॉर हाइपर लोकल. सो दिस इज द एजेंडा नंबर 1. एवरीवेयर वेर योर सेंटर इज देयर, दे मस्ट सर्च फॉर अ प्रॉब्लम. एंड आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट मैम वाइस चांसलर, आप तब तक बच्चे को डिग्री नहीं दो जब तक कि वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं ढूंढता है. जंतर मंतर टाइप के नहीं, पर द प्रॉब्लम्स विच आर रियल, एंड फाइंड अ रियल प्रॉब्लम, दैट इज हिज डिग्री. एंड इफ ही गेट्स अ रियल सोल्यूशन, देन ऑफ कोर्स ही बिकम्स एन एंटरप्रेन्योर. सेकेंड इज दैट वट एवर नॉलेज वी हैव गॉट, वी मस्ट शोकेस इट. सो आई बिलीव ऑन योर पोर्टल you have got all these ideas which are there, but we had a previous speaker. How do we project our ideas so that they go to everybody? I think they are today logged into your portal. I would suggest that every month have a day like this, where one of your centers where you talk about your ideas, call the media, maybe from the ideas that you have, people will get to know about. आपका कैंपस इतना सुंदर है. आई विश आई कुड हैव गॉट अ डिग्री लाइक सम ऑफ माय पैनलिस्ट हियर. मे बी स्टिल आई कैन.
Yes, you can.
Why not? Why not? So there are many things which can be done. So one, I think we are forming a company. I would say that all these students who are working for you and getting into the area of ideation, doing some project, coming out with some kind of thing, start thinking in terms of a fractional credit. So if something small is done, that is an incentive. You give him a fractional credit, so that boy or girl, he starts getting a reward for whatever work he is. This would be my one suggestion. I also happen to be advisor to multiple industries and trade associations. One of them is Toy Association of India. I am the advisor to Toy Association of India. We just now held a toy design competition. We got about 600 ideas. हम आपके absent लगाना चाहेंगे. I did not get a single idea from IGNOU. So I hope next year you will come out with a very large number of ideas in this. And we also do huge amount of work on industry academia collaboration. The kind of innovative work that ma'am you do and entire IGNOU does. One of the industries with whom you should collaborate is EdTech. We'll be very happy to facilitate your collaboration with EdTech industry, not only in India, but globally. So आप सब लोगों ने एक बात कही 3 million students. The Indian diaspora is 3.5 million, no, 35 million. भारत मूल के 3.5 करोड़ लोग विदेशों में हैं. And I think they are all looking for Indian knowledge system. They all want to connect to India. I think IGNOU is in fantastic position to connect to this diaspora. There is nobody better placed than you. If you want, I'll connect you to people who run GoPO and organizations called PIO. Please connect to them. They are looking for Indian knowledge system and the kind of stuff we saw. So I think this is what I had to say. Fractional credit. Local centers, we should speak for local areas, hyper-vocal for hyper-local. Contextualize. Problems are there. हमारे प्रधानमंत्री कहते हैं, we have got millions of problems. But यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री एक और चीज़ कहते हैं, billions of mind to solve them. So you have to be the bridge. Problems बहुत है, but solution भी बहुत है. And you have to be the bridge. You have got an incubator. So action for IGNOU, I would say, start courses on critical thinking, creative thinking, which should be available for all your students. Why only your students, even to outside? Second, give fractional credit and look for connection to industry. If your center does it or anybody does it, we'll be very happy to facilitate this. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to come to this beautiful campus. I hope next time ma'am will organize a ropeway for us to come. We can work together. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Mr. Jaiswal. In fact, this gives me an idea that Team NCID, we have to organize a competition on this particular problem, and let's see what our students give the ideas and suggestions. And okay. And because they are the ones who visit the campus, so they know much more better about the problem. And most importantly, I'm very grateful to all the panelists, because we have been working very hard and strongly in the direction of innovation and entrepreneurship, creation of an ecosystem. And we have been conducting several programs and a lot of competitions, and our students are also doing fairly good. Today there were students who were working in deep tech also, and we had a kind of a face-to-face interaction and mentoring with sir also and the students, and they've come up with some pathways for them. And the main takeaway is that yes, certainly now it is the right time, while we are moving into the 7th year of NEP 2020, that we start integrating innovation and entrepreneurship as our course curriculum, and the fractional credits which sir was talking of. So why not, when the students are participating in ideation competition or innovation competitions, or they have the business plans, so if we link it with our projects, so say if a student has a brilliant idea but not able to develop a prototype, at least we give some credit for that idea. And then if they have a prototype, because in most of our projects, they are quite innovative. But once their project is done, they are somewhere else. So why not, we convert them into kind of innovative projects. So if this kind of a system is there, it will be really helpful, and we will be able to reach the masses. And certainly with the establishment of the incubation center and innovation hubs at IGNOU regional centers, our other panelists who have shown us the path that how we need to move further will certainly be established. So thank you very much, everyone. And I'm really grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, because she has been after us to do all these activities, to motivate our learners for innovating in not only AI but deep tech sectors also, and certainly for establishing an incubation center and innovation hubs at RCs. So thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you everyone. I mean, all the faculty members, the staff of IGNOU, and our regional centers, they have played a very important role whenever we are organizing activities on innovation and entrepreneurship. They are there with us, and they have been also organizing activities of our students at the various regional centers. So thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to perform better and show results next year. Thank you.
Our heartfelt thanks to all our panelists, Mr. Shailin, Professor Jiten, Professor Satish, Dr. Venugopal, who shared their perspectives on innovation and how to improvise on the various practices that we are implementing. And our thanks also to Dr. Jyotsna for moderating the session. We are about to close the final session for the day-long deliberations, and with this, I request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Uma Kanjilal, to felicitate the panelists of the session. The artwork is the work of our master students from School in Performing Arts.
You are a better salesman than even I am. ये सेशन अच्छा हो गया है मैडम ने से मैं पैसे के लिए बोल रही
Sir, we will pick.
We had a day-long deliberations that has given us a unique perspectives on NEP 2020, leaving our audience inspired and empowered to take action. With this, I would like to invite Professor Pema Samrup to present the summary and the way forward.
Thank you, Professor Monica Mishra. Namaskar. Esteemed panelists, institutional partners, Honorable Vice Chancellor, industry representatives, registrar, directors COE, directors and heads of divisions, colleagues, learners, ladies and gentlemen. At the close of today's program, Shiksha Sankalp, celebrating 6 years of NEP 2020, it is my privilege to present a very, very brief summary of the proceedings and try and outline the way forward. In today's deliberations, we have reaffirmed that the National Education Policy 2020 is not just a policy, it's not a document, but it's an extremely powerful and transformative framework that helps us reimagine Indian education system as something that is inclusive, that is multidisciplinary, technology-enabled, learner-centric, and globally connected. The program brought together distinguished academicians, policymakers, industry leaders, practitioners, all reflecting the collaborative spirit that seems to lie at the very heart of NEP 2020. The inaugural session set the tone for the day by reaffirming IGNOU's commitment to supporting the national vision of Viksit Bharat through innovation, quality education, and lifelong learning. The exhibition, which was on display outside, showcased innovations and startups, further highlighting the creativity and entrepreneurial spirit emerging across the higher education ecosystem. The first technical session provided very, very valuable insights into the role of the Indian knowledge system in strengthening our educational foundations through synergy across disciplines, acting as the cornerstone of knowledge while paving the way for interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary base. It also highlighted the transformative potential of digital public infrastructure, including APAR, the Academic Bank of Credits, and DigiLocker, in enabling learner mobility, transparency, and seamless academic progression. The second session focused on the relationship, or the lack thereof, between education and skilling. The discussions emphasized the National Skills Framework, National Credit Framework, and recognition of prior learning as very, very powerful mechanisms for integrating academic learning with vocational education, with skilling and lifelong learning, while the industry perspective brought forward by CII reminded us that stronger institutional partnerships need to be ensured, need to be in place, and are very, very crucial to ensure that graduates possess the competencies required in this rapidly evolving economy. The third session explored a very, very exciting area, which was the world of AVGC XR. And we looked at AGVC XR technologies as tools for creating immersive learning environments. The short clip on Bharat Hai Hum definitely woke us up from our post-lunch stupor. The second speaker talked about the importance of responsible, ethical, and structured commitment to a fundamentally human-centered, those are the words she used, human-centered and scalable AI in education, while also showing us how emerging technologies can significantly enrich the teaching learning process, particularly within the open distance digital learning ecosystem. The final, the concluding panel discussion reinforced the importance of nurturing innovation, entrepreneurship, and institutional partnerships. The panelists talked about IGNOU's entrepreneurship incubation initiatives and highlighted that translating a policy into practice requires sustained collaboration among the academia, the industry, the government, and innovators to enable them to build an ecosystem that supports research, creativity, and enterprise. As we move ahead, today's discussions point towards several collective priorities. First would be strengthening the implementation of NEP 2020 through greater institutional collaboration and knowledge sharing, which we are doing, and we can do more. Promoting interdisciplinary education rooted in the Indian knowledge system while embracing global best practices. We can look at expanding the adoption of digital public infrastructure to create seamless learner-centric educational ecosystems, which again we are already doing, as was mentioned. Integrating skilling, employability, and lifelong learning through effective implementation of the National Credit Framework. Now, the other thing that we could look at and is harnessing artificial intelligence and immersive technologies in a very responsible manner to improve access, quality, and learner engagement in higher education and ODDL. Building stronger partnerships with the industry, government agencies, and international institutions to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, and research. Continuing IGNOU's leadership in expanding inclusive, flexible, and technology-enabled education in support of the vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047. Now, the ideas that were shared today should not remain confined to today's discussions. Rather, the ideas that were brought forth that could have come to our own minds should inspire actionable initiatives, should lead to meaningful collaborations and sustained institutional efforts that translate the vision of NEP 2020 into very, very concrete and measurable outcomes. On behalf of the Indira Gandhi National Open University, I extend my gratitude to our chief guest this morning, Professor Shashikala Wanjari, Vice Chancellor NIEPA, for honoring us with her presence and sharing her valuable perspectives. Our sincere gratitude to all the distinguished speakers, panelists for enriching today's program with their expertise, their insights, and thought-provoking discussions. Their contributions have provided us with valuable direction for strengthening the implementation of NEP 2020 across ODDL. A heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Kanjilal, for her visionary leadership and constant encouragement. Thank you, ma'am. Our appreciation also goes to all the participants, the directors of schools, heads of divisions, faculty members, officers, staff members, learners, industry representatives, and institutional partners. Special thanks to the Convention Center staff, the EMPC staff, the horticulture staff, the guest house staff, general admin staff, and the PRO. In case I've missed out thanking somebody, apologies in advance. Kshama kar dijiye. I place on record my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee and every individual who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that this program became a successful reality. Let us carry forward the spirit of today's deliberations with renewed commitment towards building an inclusive, innovative, skilled, and globally engaged higher education system that contributes meaningfully to the vision of Viksit Bharat. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Please join for tea and have a great evening.